Good afternoon. Today I thought I'd do a what's in my bag video. What's in my wildlife bag. I've got two bags. I've got a wildlife bag and a landscape bag. I have tried in the past to use one bag, but it's just so much easier to have two bags. So I thought I'd show you what I use to shoot our wildlife vlogs. So shall we start with the bag? I suppose that's as good a place to start as any. This is the Low Pro 500 AW2 flip side bag. It's a rucksack style bag. Oh, before I start, not sponsored by anyone, don't get paid to say anything. I bought everything you see here with my own money, unfortunately. So this is an unbiased review of what I use. I've had this bag about probably a year, maybe, yeah, about a year. It's a nice bag. It's well padded. It's got a nice hip belt, comfortable straps. It's a backloading bag, which I like, which means the main camera compartment is in here. But if I start at the front, I suppose I could put it on, I suppose. I got this bag in particular because it fits my lenses in, which may seem an obvious thing to say, but I struggled with other bags fitting the lenses in. As you'll see when I open the bag up, there's not a lot of room inside. But if I start, sorry, I'll just adjust the mic. If I start with the front of the bag, it's got a big opening at the front. I don't keep that much in the front of the bag, really. I don't find that I need to, but I've got a shoulder strap. This is a Black Rapid. It's the Black Rapid shoulder strap. Yep, that's all that's called. Which I use for my 2 to 500 mm lens. Holds over 5K. It does hold over 5K, yes, Gemma. It doesn't. I don't tend to carry anything other than my 2 to 500 with this. So, and to be fair, I haven't used this much lately. I tend to hold the camera by the tripod, the lens by the tripod foot. So it's not something that I use a great deal anymore, but it's in the bag. I have a monocular as opposed to binoculars, simply because that just saves on a bit of space. These weren't exactly great ones. They're fairly cheap, but just generic Chinese. Handy to identify birds and wildlife when I don't want to keep putting my camera and lens up to my eye. So that's my monocular. I have a nice bit of kit here, which I managed to find for a bargain. This is a Nikon, because I shoot Nikon, or Nikon as the Americans say. This is a 90-degree viewfinder eyepiece, which is awesome for low level. If I'm laying down, laying on my front, it saves your neck having to bend your head back or forward to see through the eyepiece. It attaches to the front of the camera by this screw in bit here, and it just saves, look down it, it's quite self-explanatory. But I got this off eBay for a very nice price, considering this is a genuine Nikon. It's quite old, but it's a nice piece of kit. It's a Nikon D850, if people are interested. It's got an diopter on the front as well, which is nice, and it came in its own little carry bag. So that's the front of my bag. I don't think I've got anything else in there. No, I haven't. But there's room for memory cards, lens cloths, the like. That's that. Oh, look what I've found, Gemma. Gemma wanted one of those. I'll just put this stuff back, and then I'll open up the main compartment. Okay, now the business end, as they say. This is the flip side part of the bag that I was talking about. I don't want to flip it literally. Open the back of the bag, or the back of the bag is obviously up against your back normally, and this is the compartment where all the goodies are. Right, might as well start with the camera that I use. The camera of my choice is the Nikon D850. I absolutely love this camera. This does everything that I want it to do. As you probably know if you watch our channel, I do landscape as well, and I found this to be brilliant at everything. There's no compromise really. I used to have a D810 and a D500, which Gemma uses. A D500, another lovely camera. But when the D850 came out, I looked long and hard at it, sold my two other bodies and bought the D850. It's a superb landscape camera, superb wildlife camera, 45 point something megapixels, the same autofocus system as the D5 and the D500, so plenty fast enough for wildlife. I have got the battery pack attached to it, which gives me 9 frames a second, which when you think it's shifting 45 megapixel files, that's pretty impressive. The buffer is fairly deep as well, fairly large if you use XQD cards, which I do. They're faster than SD cards. There is a rumour that Nikon are going to flash the firmware to enable the use of compact flash express cards for these, but I don't know whether that's actually true. But fingers crossed, because if that does, that's another as I have. So that's the camera. Plenty of reviews on the internet if you want to find out about it, but absolutely love the camera. Right, moving on. If we go to this little compartment, I have 2 teleconverters. I have the Nikon TC20E Mark III, which I use with the 300mm prime lens to give me 600mm 5.6. It's a nice teleconverter. It's sharp enough wide open. It is better stop down, so really it's best to use when the light is good. You stop it down to f8, and it's sharp. So that's the 2x teleconverter. I then have the 1.4x teleconverter. This is just a Mark I Nikon teleconverter, but I find you lose really no sharpness with this at all when attached to the 300mm prime. You do lose a stop of light, but it's still an f4 at the end of the day with 300 2.8. So we're being watched by Patrick the dog through the window. So they're my 2 teleconverters. I tend to use the 1.4 a lot more than the 2x converter, but both of them are definitely usable. Moving on to the lenses. We'll start with the Nikon 2-500 f5.6 zoom lens. I've had this lens a year and a half, 2 years probably one of the longest owned lenses I've ever had, because I have been known in the past to get through lenses a little bit. I've got a bit of a problem. Well, I had a bit of a problem, but I'm okay now. I don't tend to burn through lenses as much. Want the next and greatest thing. This is a superb lens. It constantly amazes me how they sell it for the price that they do. It's got VR, very good VR. I mean, bearing in mind this is a 500mm lens, you can shoot. I've shot to 1/100th of a second with this, with the VR on. I mean, it's absolutely amazing. The autofocus is fast. It's sharp wide open as well, which is massive. shoot at 5.6 all day long. 99% of my shots are at 5.6. I never go off 5.6 really, unless I want a greater depth of field for more than one subject in the frame. But really, 5.6 all day long. A lovely, super, fairly lightweight. I think it's about two kilograms. I'd have to check that, but pretty sure it's about 2 kilograms. So that's the Nikon 200 to 500. An awesome piece of kit. Why are you laughing? I'm not even looking. Not even looking. I'm not even going to look. Not even looking. Right. Now, this is my Nikon 300mm prime lens. It's the 300mm f2.8 VR lens, the first VR1. A lovely piece of kit. Unfortunately, 300mm, as you wildlife people know, is not long for wildlife, so I don't get to use it as much as I'd like bare, i.e. without a teleconverter on. When I do, at 2.8, it's stunning. Nothing else I have owned before this or since gives the dreamy quality that this does. This is just super fast autofocus, fairly close focusing as well, and with the teleconverter on, it's a sort of a pseudo macro lens really. The biggest disadvantage with this lens is the weight. It is about 3 kilos, I think, which is not, when you're comparing it to a 600mm prime or 500mm prime, obviously it's not heavy, but you know if you carry this about all day. So that's the bag, apart from the front flap, which is memory cards, spare memory cards, lens wipes, sunglasses, that's hopeful, spare batteries, just odds and bits and pieces. Oh, that's got a that has got a laptop compartment, or iPad or tablet, whatever you use. So that's the flip side, low pro flip side 500 AW Mark II in forest green. Forest green. That's the bag sorted. I'll now move on to stuff that I also carry. Oh, there is a lens that I use that I couldn't put in the bag because there wasn't room, and I don't take it everywhere I go. This is the Tamron. Yeah, Jem likes this lens. It's the Tamron 70-200 f2.8 G2, the newer version. Really lovely lens, really sharp, very user friendly in terms of it's got 3 VC modes, autofocus limiter from infinity to 3 meters or full range of autofocus, very fast to autofocus. Probably, I'd say not quite as fast as my 300 Nikon. I did use this in Skoma last year for the puffins flying in, and the Nikon 300mm 2.8, and the Nikon was still slightly faster at, I'd say it was faster at acquiring autofocus. I'd say once both lenses had locked on, they both tracked absolutely brilliantly. I mean, you're only talking about a hair's difference really, but I do still think the Nikon has the edge in autofocus acquisition. So that's the initial lock to the subject, but it's very close. But this is a lovely lens, fairly close focusing. It does suffer from a little bit of focus breathing, but not as much as the Nikon VR Mark II that I had for a little while. That suffered quite badly with focus breathing, but this is not quite so bad. Fairly close focusing, down to about 1 meter, I think. a very nice lens. Like I said, Jem likes this lens. Well, I like it as well, but she likes taking that off me when I'm not looking.
It's extremely lightweight.
It is lightweight.
And I have a similar one, Tamron.
Yes.
F4.
Yes, Jem uses the Tamron 70 to 210. 70 to 210 f4, again the G2, the new version. All of the new Tamron lenses and Sigma, they've really upped their game in the last few years and are just as good, really, in some ways, than the named brands. So that's the Tamron 70 to 200 2.8 G2. Now, if I just show you random bits and pieces, roll mat, which I use if I'm laying down mud or on the beach or in woodland to get the low angle shots that we all wildlife photographers strive to get. Not much to say about that. Neither is there much to say about the camo net. Just a cheap camo net, throw over the top, makes you camouflaged, i.e. the jacket.
I don't understand.
What do you mean?
What you do with it?
What? You throw it over yourself.
Do what?
Throw it over yourself.
I don't understand.
So apparently I have to show you what this looks like. You really want to see what it looks like? Probably can't get it out now. Basically, now you see me, now you don't. Serves a purpose. Lastly, but by no means least, my tripod. Now, the tripod, I've been through a lot of tripods over the years. Like most camera photography people, we like our gear. I've owned cheaper tripods in the past, but about a year ago I treated myself to my first Gitzo tripod. Gitzo are a offshoot of Manfrotto, I think. Manfrotto. They're like their higher end part of the Manfrotto range. But I did have a 2 series systematic tripod, and I then got a 5 series systematic tripod, which is the beast. I found the 5 series Gitzo to be overkill, really, for the lenses I had. I haven't got a 5 or 600mm prime. It was big and heavy, solid as a rock though, absolutely amazing bit of kit, but it was big. I had a 2 series systematic that I used for landscapes, which I found to be slightly too small. So you can probably guess what I did. I sold the Series 2 and the Series 5, and I got a Series 3, which I now use for everything. And it's been a good buy, very successful. It's big enough and sturdy enough for my landscape work, still big enough and sturdy enough for my 300mm with the 1.4 or the 2 to 500 Nikon for the wildlife stuff. I did then treat myself to the Gitzo fluid head, which people who know what gimbal heads are, wildlife photographers and videographers use them mostly to mount long lenses. You've got the vertical and the horizontal movement, but this is a fluid head, so it's incredibly smooth. You've got fast adjustments when you need to move fast, but it's a lovely smooth piece of kit, brilliant for panning, excellent for video, excellent for stills. It actually, I say it wasn't cheap. I think it's reasonably priced for a Gitzo product, because I've seen other gimbal heads made by other manufacturers which are more expensive than this, and I don't think they're as well made. This is a lovely, sturdy, built like a tank gimbal head. Like I said, incredibly smooth. All my video I shoot with it. It's a good match for the 3 series systematic Gitzo tripod. It's the GT3533LS for those who really want to know. So basically that's it. 3 series Gitzo systematic, Gitzo gimbal fluid head. That is my wildlife gear. Jem has got something similar. She uses a gimbal head with a tripod. She uses a Nikon D850, which is a lovely, awesome wildlife and landscape lens, but DX crop sensor. But a lovely, beautiful camera, one of Nikon's classics. She uses the Sigma 150 to 600, 6.3, or f5 to 6.3, I think it is. With the Tamron 70 to 210 f4. It's handy that we both use Nikon bodies. We do swap lenses, borrow lenses off each other quite a bit, which is handy. I know when we went to the Brecon Beacons to shoot the dippers, I didn't have a long lens on me, I don't think, that day, and Jem very kindly lent me her Sigma lens, so definitely handy when you both shoot the same system. We have found that to be a big help. I will probably be doing a what's in my landscape bag, because that's totally different. Obviously the same camera, but the lenses, and I use my drone. I can talk more about that because I tend to use that more for landscapes, although I do use it for wildlife as well. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Any questions, any comments, leave them below, and we'll see you next time.